record. So as we get into setting up our users for Matrix single sign-on, you're going to notice using all 4 applications, and this will be located in eSource under our Matrix Care Video Learning section under Housing. So what we're going to do first is we're going to navigate over to the Elite side, and I'm going to be in my demo site right now, and hopefully this will work because I have to use a different name in my demo site. So when you're under your Facility tab, the first thing we want to do when we're setting up a new user is we want to search for them. And the reason we want to search for them is we want to know if they've already had a name previously in Matrix, so that we don't reset them up if we could reactivate them. Or if they already have a username, we can change them to a single sign-on very easily. I can look either under a corporate search user. So if I want to look for a senior living nurse, or let me see what, let's go SL nurse. 1 is somebody I know. I can include my inactive here, and I could search and I could see, oh, I do have an SL nurse. Or I could look just under my facility search users, and I could look to see if she was ever, and I always want to include my inactive, and then I could search here and I can see, yep, there is one here and one here. Now, if I don't find one here or here, I can add a new user here under my facility. Or if I'm doing a corporate, which Becky, you'll want to set yours up now with corporate, because then you can do multiple buildings, and Matrix is set up in different locations as different buildings. So St. Crispin, if you have a nurse and you want them to have access to the nursing home, you'd want to now start using these corporate user templates. And then Becky, because your IL and your AL are 2 separate buildings, you'd want them to just have one username. It would be a corporate community user. So if I'm under my corporate tab, I can add a user, or if I'm under my facility tab, I could add a user. So let's go to corporate first. And let's just say I want to make a new nurse coming in. I can pick the community nurse here. So if it has community, that means you're going to have multiple communities. Now, if I was under the facility add user, you're going to see my templates don't have that COMM in front of them. I can only set up one community through my community facility. Where for St. Crispin and AID, you'd only need the facility. So let's add a user under the corporate template. And if I'm going to set up a nurse with multiple buildings, so let's just call this nurse training nurse. And I'm going to make her an RN. And then here is, I'm going to make up their username. So maybe I'm a TR nurse 1. The password that I'm putting in the Elite side is not going to matter what I use right now, because I'm going to override the nurse password. And this is where that SSO number is going to go. But I'm going to hold off a minute, and I'm just going to start here and stop. And I'm going to come over to KeyCloak. KeyCloak, when you first log in, this is our admin console. This is now how we create our single sign-on numbers, where we manage our usernames and passwords, and this is where we come to unlock. When you first log into this long URL, which I'll send out to you guys, you're gonna see this page not found, and you're gonna think you signed into the wrong area, but you didn't. You're going to go back to this home page here, and you're going to see here's where we're managing our users, and you just want to toggle to users. This function here is where we unlock people. So when they've made too many attempts and they lock themselves out, you just come here and unlock all users. You don't have to worry about searching for that user. All you have to do is come into KeyCloak and hit unlock. The nice thing about KeyCloak, it is not locked down, and I do have this on my phone. So if I am out and about, I copied this URL and I have it now downloaded so I can quickly come in and unlock users if it's the weekend. The key is to tell people, your staff, to wait 15 minutes and it will unlock itself. But they tend to not wait 15 minutes and then they keep trying, and so finally I'll just come in and unlock. The nice thing about single sign-on users, very rare do you have to reset a password. It should never really need to be reset. So here we're going to look for someone named Cinnamon. Cinnamon was set up the other day and her name isn't working. So if I look her up, this is her username, her first and last name. I always want to, when I'm searching, just hit the search sign. If I view users, you're going to see, I'll see everyone in the United States. It's a very lengthy list. So you just want to hit that hourglass. When you look on the link on that person, you're going to see that they have an SSO number here. They have their username. We do not want to use an email, first and last name. And then if I wanted to deactivate her from all 3 sites, I would deactivate her here. We don't need to verify email. We just want to go ahead and update a password, but there's lots of functions. And if you highlight over, it will tell them everything that's in here. But these are the 3 actions. If I'm just updating a profile or I'm updating a password, we don't want to use a verify email. Passwords are kept under credentials. So if I'm resetting a password, this is where we reset. And I use a generic one because it's always temporary, and it will ask them if they want to change their password. When they first log on now, it will ask her to change to her permanent password, which has to be 8 characters, a number, a letter, and a capital. So let's go back to training nurse RN. So training nurse RN, we want to add her in KeyCloak. KeyCloak is where they're going to get their SSO number to paste in. So if I go back here and I have her TR Nurse 1 as her username, I want to make sure everything is the same here in KeyCloak. And it doesn't matter if you start in KeyCloak or you start in Elite. So I did training nurse with capitals. Your usernames, you probably don't want to use capitals. But you will if it's the first and last name, you can use capitals. So all I need is her username, her first name, her last name, and then we're going to hit save. As soon as we hit save, do you see this number here that it created? This is a number that's going to link their users to all 3 sites. I'm just going to come back into Matrix here and I'm going to paste it in. Now the Elite name is set up. I'm going to hit save. And now I'm going to see that here's my facilities that she can be in. I'm going to update this. And it's going to ask me what region I want. And so I can expand and I can put her at the BHS training facility. There's a skilled one and a senior living training facility. So TR Nurse 1 will now be at the training facility. And maybe I'll give her both. The reason why we want to expand it and not just pick a whole region or like all the Madonnas is because this nurse will be using the Welch Allen machine and you have to individually check each facility. So you do have to hit the update button if you're using the community usernames for multiple facilities and then pick their facilities. Back to KeyCloak. I'm going to go to credentials and I'm going to set that temporary password. But because this is a training name, I think I'm going to take the temporary off and make it a permanent password. I'm going to reset that password now. And then I'm going to go to role mapping. If it's a nurse or someone who's setting up other users, they need this role mapping. An aide, a regular nurse on the floor most likely won't. But this person maybe can, so she just needs that client admin assigned role for her. I could remove it by highlighting and hitting remove. And if I highlight it and add, then it's here. You can also see when they were last signed on. So if I'm searching to see when someone signed on last, the sessions here, it will tell you. And if they're locked into a session and can't sign out, I could log them out of all their sessions and knock them off Matrix for them. I've never had to do that, but it's available there. So basically details is where you first put in their name, username, first name, last name. Then you'll go to credentials and put in that temporary password. And then they're set up now in Matrix, Elite, and KeyCloak. But we have one more place to go. We have to go into Senior Living and set them up. And let's see if it'll let me on the training site. So I'll have to go in my SSO and do it here. So I'm under system setup in Senior Living. This is where we're going to set up our Care Assist user. So you have Care Assist that we'll be using and Senior Living that we'll be using that name needs to tie to. We have to start in Care Assist user management. And again, we could search for that user. And I don't see her here. So I could go add a user and you'll see here there's some required fields. So again, I want to make sure I'm copying everything over correctly. So training nurse. And then what was my username was trnurse1. And she will be at the training facility. So now I have my username, but this is important. The SSO here is not red starred, but this is where that number is going to go. The number needs to match so that it can now read and override everything. This number is what drives your username now. Then we'll come down and hit our primary community because it's red starred. You'll pick her position. And if the position you have created doesn't match exactly what's in here, just pick the closest one. And then these tokens are really important because this is their ability to use Care Assist. If they don't have the tokens, they're not going to see anything in Care Assist. So go ahead and select all is the easiest way to do it. It has 50 tokens. Go all the way to the bottom. And these narcotics ones, they don't work. So we take them off. The amend any administration you can take off. If it's a nurse, you would leave on the nurse only administration, of course. You could take these two off, the add modified treatment orders requiring approval and the inventory track meds. These two don't really work for us. We don't even have them turned on. If it's an aide, they would not be able to approve orders, but if it was a nurse, you could leave that on. And basically everything else they would need. Now, if I come in and someone can't see something in the EMR or they don't have a dashboard, it's probably because we didn't give them access to EMR, or so you just want to come check their tokens. You can add an additional community here. So I can give a staff multiple communities. Once I add that community, it won't let me save. So now I have to pick a community. So I'm going to pick Escaline IL, and this will be a training name maybe you could use for yours area. And again, I'm going to select all. And I'm just going to come down and take the bottom ones off. And this has pictures and the directions that I've made so that you can see it visually, so you don't have to remember all this. Usually it's around 41 to 44 tokens. You hit save. Now the CareAssist user has been set up. Once you're set up in CareAssist, you still have senior living, but it created a senior living user for you. Senior living is housed under usernames. The only time you need to go in and check this name is if they're a nurse, because they will just need, excuse me, I gotta pick the right communities. They will need, they'll need access to things in senior living that an aide would not. So I just go find the user, I hit edit. Now you'll see they already made the name, but the default role is CareAssist default. A nurse will need the control clin notes, because she needs to type in clinical notes. That would be her primary role. If it were a director of nursing, they would need the assisted living DON role. You could give them other roles, but pretty much the assisted living DON role has everything that you need under it. If you picked an additional one, it would be fine. And then here's the other communities. So under that nurse, the nurse could have multiple communities there. So again, if I'm under CareAssist and I wanted to see what facilities she had there, I can see my TR training nurse. I can now go back in and modify it. I can now add that other community of the Escaline assisted living. And again, I could add some tokens. So this training name, now Becky could use at her facility when she has new staff, and they could come in here and practice. So I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.